Good evening, everyone. I'm Rifa Fatima, final year MCOM student, your host for the webinar. It is absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this exciting and insightful webinar. We are honored to have such a distinguished gathering today, comprising academicians, research scholars, students, and esteemed guests. Under the initiative of IQAC and Research Cell of St. Teresa's Degree College, in collaboration with SEMS Welfare Foundation, is organizing these 3 days national level webinar on research skill and publication. We aim to provide valuable insights and knowledge that will enhance research capabilities of our participants and to enhance faculty competences in research areas and inspire professional growth by encouraging them for research publication. It is my great honor and privilege to welcome you all to the first day webinar on research skill and publication. First and foremost, I extend my warmest welcome to our esteemed principal of St. Teresa's Degree College, Dr. Sister Prema, whose leadership and vision continue to inspire us all. Cheerful welcome to you, sister. A special welcome and warm greetings to our resource person, Dr. N. Safari Ma'am, whose expertise insights will undoubtedly provide us with a deeper understanding of research methodologies and publication strategies. A delightful welcome to you, ma'am. I am also delighted to welcome our Vice Principal, IQAC Director, and NSS Coordinator, Mrs. Mallika Shetty Ma'am, whose guidance and dedication have played a crucial role in shaping our academic endeavors. We deeply appreciate your presence here today. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. We are honored to have with us today Mrs. Lakshmi Ma'am and Mr. Atul Sir, the representative of SEMS Welfare Foundation. Your commitment to academic and social welfare is truly commendable, and we are grateful for your support in making this webinar a success. Hearty welcome to you. I extend my welcome to our academic coordinator, Mr. Rajesh Sir, program coordinator and PG coordinator, Mr. Suresh Sir, and the organizing team whose relentless effort and meticulous planning have made this event possible. A heartfelt welcome to all our participants joining us online, including distinguished academicians, research scholars, and students from various institutions. Your enthusiasm and commitment to learning are what make events like this a truly meaningful. Last but not least, I would like to express my warm greetings to our dedicated teaching staff whose unwavering support and dedication continue to enrich our academic community. Once again, a warm welcome to everyone. Let us make this event a fruitful and enlightening experience. Thank you. Now, I request Ms. Aisha Khanam ma'am, Head of Business Administration, to introduce the resource person. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rifa. I welcome you as well. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before I introduce our resource person, I would like to speak a few words about SEMS Welfare Foundation. SEMS Welfare Foundation is registered non-profit organization, is dedicated to social impact across various sectors. They focus on education, particularly skill development and entrepreneurship. Through their initiative, Digi Sakshama, they have created training programs in IT, finance, retail, and entrepreneurship, impacting over 6,000 individuals. They are currently upskilling inmates in Haryana jails and collaborating with universities and colleges. They have also partnered with banks to place over 1,500 candidates in jobs. In just a short time, SEMS has established itself as a force for positive change, equipping individuals with skills for employment and promoting women's leadership in various industries. We are happy to have collaboration with SEMS Welfare Foundation, and I thank Lakshmi ma'am and Atul sir for giving us the opportunity for having this collaboration. Now let us have a short introduction about our resource person. Dr. N. Safrin is currently working as an independent researcher associated with Scholars Gate Research Institute, Tamil Nadu. She has completed her PhD in English from Stella Maris College, Chennai. She specializes in writing and publishing academic and non-academic content. Her areas of interest include psychology, journalism, autobiography, bhakti literature, Indian literature, and many more. She has published several research articles in reputed journals like Indian Literature of Sahitya Academy and Journal South Asian Literature. She is also an editorial board member of several literary journals such as Literary Cognizance and World Journal for English Literature. She also presented several of her research papers in national and international seminars and conferences. We are privileged to have you with us, ma'am.
Thank you
Over
so
to you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded and we'll share the recording with you after the session. If you have questions during presentation, please use Q&A or chat feature and we'll address them during Q&A segment. Feel free to share your thoughts. Please note, e-certificates will be provided only if the participants attend all 3 days and submit the responses via feedback link which will be shared after every session. E-certificates will be provided within 5 to 7 working days. Without doing a more ado, let's begin the session. I request the resource person, Dr. N. Safarin ma'am, to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Very warm evening to everyone, and thanks for joining. And thank you so much for that warm introduction. And let me start the session. Just give me some time to just share my screen once again. Okay, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible? Am I audible? My screen is visible, right?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible and we can watch the screen.
Yeah. Also, I'm changing the slides just to see if it is reflecting, so that I don't miss out later. One sec. Can you see the slides changing?
Yes, ma'am. We can.
Okay, that's great. Okay, I'll start the session now. So, towards the end of the session, there'll be some time for us to, I'll open the floor for questions. I'll be taking the questions. So, as you know, the first day of this FTP is going to focus on research, and I'm very sure that research is a common term. It's not that something new. You people would have heard it already. I suppose there are many scholars here. We have faculty members. Yes, we know research. We have been hearing about it, and some of you or most of you would have read about research and research papers, articles. Some of you would have published also, but today I have this topic with you and have planned the webinar with these things in mind. So my outline will be going like this. We'll be starting with reflecting on the definition of research. What is research? What are the types and how the research process actually happens? What are the key concepts involved in research? And as a very basic start, how do you start research? That is how to go about with your topic and how to make your research unique. What are the things that really go in making your research a unique piece? And what are the skills that is very important for a researcher? So definition of research. So research is nothing but a systematic and scientific investigation of a problem that aims to generate new knowledge or validate existing knowledge. So we know that when we say we are doing a research, we mean to say that there is a problem that we are trying to approach. We want to find something, we want to approach something which is already existing. We are coming out with new perspectives for that. It definitely involves a proper systematic and scientific investigation, in the sense there is a step by step approach to which you will go ahead with the research that you are selecting. And also, the aim of the research is to generate new knowledge. There is something that's already existing, but you want to come up with your research which will end up giving knowledge, which will come out with a complete new finding to help out the people who are in that particular field of knowledge, and also validate the existing knowledge. Probably this is already existing, but you would want to show that, you would want to test, verify, and prove that this knowledge is beneficial, and thereby throw light to this piece of knowledge which is probably not receiving critical attention. And research also involves a structured and organized process of gathering and analyzing data. So if you see, there is a structure, there is a system, and there is an organization which works when we talk about research. We can't do anything in a haphazard manner when it comes to research. So right from the beginning, there is a lot of effort, there's a lot of background research that goes into it. Even before you start the research, you do a lot of background work to even submit your proposal, which we'll be seeing in the third day. So there is this whole process which starts very organically. And for this, we end up collecting a lot of data. Once we collect the data, we analyze it, we interpret it, and then the findings culminate into what we call as research findings. And research is also a process that requires critical thinking, creativity, and persistence. Definitely, it's something that will demand you to think more critically, because when certain information comes to you on the way as you travel in this intellectual journey, you are asked to critically reflect and analyze and come up with your own views and perspectives. Remember, research is something that needs to be from your side. Your reflection and your perspective matters. Of course, when you are approaching a particular topic, there are chances, or mostly there might be the same research has been already worked out, or many papers have been published related to that research. There are a lot of findings related to that. But what makes your research unique is your perspective, your critical analysis, and the way you approach the subject. And that's where the originality of the research really lies in. So, this research process itself requires a lot of critical analysis, and it makes you creative and innovative because what you bring to the table is important. And persistence, of course, you need to stay dedicated. It's a long journey and it takes time, right? Even if you have to publish a research paper, you have to work for it like at least 3 to 6 months in depth to get all the materials to analyze, to reflect and write your paper, reread it, proofread, check it. And there's a lot of process that goes through, and then only you start publishing. There are high chances it gets published in a good journal. So persistence is definitely, I would say, it's an emotional quality that is needed for a researcher to stay grounded and go ahead in this journey. And research can be applied in various fields. Yeah, it's not just related to one field alone. Many times when I say the word research, people think it's only for sciences, right? Because they end up finding new products or coming up with something new, finding discovery. It's immediately connected to science. But research is not like that. It is for science as well as for engineering, humanities. It's common to all the fields. And if you see, since I'm coming from literature background, from humanities, there's so much of thing happening even in literary field, right? There's a lot of discussion related to books, literary theories and concepts. One might not think that there's so much of research that can happen in humanities field, especially like literature, but there are so many findings, there are so many analysis which keeps happening, and research papers are getting published in different genre. So it's very important for us to understand that research is ubiquitous, it's present in all the disciplines, and when you are passionate about a particular subject, a particular field in that subject, high chances are that you can start developing your research skills and you will become an erudite scholar slash researcher in that field. So towards the end, you could see I've put the word research, plus search. Now, I would encourage you all to think about this picture in mind. Remember, if you can see a roundtable conference, you must have seen in pictures, movies, something like researchers can associate with. So when there is a roundtable conference, you see 4 or 5 people discussing about a common topic. When you enter into that conference, when you enter into the table, you take a seat and sit. Probably you will listen to what all the people are talking. You're not aware of what the topic is. Once, like probably after 5 minutes, you get an idea as to what the topic is, what these people are discussing, and you will also start throwing your ideas. You will also start reflecting your own thoughts to that. This is actually the image which will help you to understand what research is. Already something has been done about the research, done about the topic that you're going to approach. That is the roundtable that I'm talking about. And then when you enter into that research, probably you are new, you are just, gathering information. You already know what is existing, what these people are discussing. But what you bring to the table after listening to all the thoughts, after listening to their perspectives, your own understanding, your own ideas, your creative, input, that is what makes you another member in the table who's giving their thoughts. So that is the addition you bring to the entire discussion, to the discourse. So this is the image that I would want to bring to you when we talk about research. And research, as I'm saying, you're researching. Okay, there is something which is there. You're searching, you're researching, and there are chances that when you do this consistently, you will find certain things which have not been put into the spotlight so far, which have not been given adequate attention. Mostly when we are doing research, we are encouraging even my students or scholars or people who come and ask me help. And when I give my piece of advice to them, what I say is find something which is new, which is original, and see to that you come out with something which is not being given importance. If I say new original, it's not that it's not at all existing. It is there. Probably there is paucity of information related to that topic, or there is lack of scholarly attention for that particular topic slash field, or whatever area of interest that person can be in. So the more you try to explore, there are high chances that you will come up with materials, you will come up with information which is not being brought to light. And once you come up with that, you can start analyzing and you can start approaching it in your own way. And the more searching you do, the more literature review you do, the more upfront you are, you keep yourself updated with the topic, there are high chances you will come up with relevant materials which will help you to give a broader understanding of that topic. Now, let me move on to the types of research. There are many types of research, but here I've just brought in three major types to give you a fair understanding about how research really operates. So the first type is pure research or basic research. The second one is applied research, and the third one is policy research. So what is pure research? Pure research or basic research is nothing but it's a research that is focused without a practical application in mind. The basic thing is to advance knowledge in a specific area. For example, I can say my research in English literature can be an example of a pure research, because there's no practical application as such unless you have to do something with linguistics, they say, ELT, where they will conduct some experiments or something, practical things would be used or practical approaches will be used. Otherwise, it is advancing knowledge in the particular genre that I'm working in, where I can really see to that I will be extensively using the theories, literary theories and concepts to advance my knowledge in that area. There's no much of practical applications being used in this research. And the whole priority stays on the fundamental principle and concept, because any research will be resting itself on certain premises. This thing keeps coming up in between. I don't know how to, okay, I'm just putting it aside, but yeah. So pure research prioritizes fundamental principles and concepts over a practical problem solving. For example, you want to, there's a particular field, for example, astronomers are studying something related to the celestial bodies. They want to understand the properties, how these certain celestial bodies form, what are their surroundings, what are their characteristics. So although if you see the discoveries made in pure research in later stage might encourage practical application, but the primary focus in pure research is understanding, fundamental understanding of how something works. What is the character of some element? Probably you can say it's mostly used in scientific field where you try to understand how certain things work. Doesn't mean to say it is completely devoid of practical application. Maybe later on stage it will pick up the practical part of it, but otherwise the whole idea is to advance knowledge, to increase the knowledge in that particular area by understanding the characteristics and formation of a particular element of the study. Next, we'll move on to applied research. Applied research focuses on solving practical problems in a particular field. So here, the focus is definitely on the problems that we are discussing. Usually, it's conducted with specific application in mind and for finding solutions to real world problems. So here, I put in an example which says, applied research is like when you want to find a new drug to treat a specific disease. Okay, it's a scientific discovery. So researchers will be identifying a biological target that's involved with the disease, and they will develop a drug which can interact with the target so that the symptoms can be alleviated. So this type of a scientific research is called applied research because we are trying to find a solution, a practical solution for the problem. Because the disease is the problem, you want to come up with a solution so that it can help people who are suffering with this disease. So this is application oriented, practical oriented, it's applied research. Next is policy research. Policy research is something which is related to the field of economics, law, international relations. So policy, it aims to gather data to inform policy decisions and provide evidence-based information. So for example, if a government is going to introduce any policy to help the poor people, I think that's the example I've put in. So we need to assess how this policy really helps the poor people. Is it becoming beneficial to them? Although it was introduced with the motive to help poor people, is it really benefiting them? What are the pros and cons? Analyzing all this will be an example of policy research. So when this example you can have in mind when we think about how policies really impact. So researchers can collect data on the program's impact during how many people are impacted, benefited out of it. Has it made any changes? Feedback forms can be given to the participants. So you will have a specific set of participants who are selected, who are covered under the policy, and they'll be checking as to how this policy really helps the people and what are its benefits by using a proper research design. So policy research could also be used to evaluate the impact of economic policies. So mostly in the field of economics, there are a lot of policies that's brought in to benefit people, to benefit our ties with other countries. So like maybe when it comes to tax related policies and industrial policies, all this can be studied to understand how far it impacts the people. Why do you think this policy research is important? Because it really tells us whether any particular rule, law, or regulation or any research policies that is passed by the government, how far it is beneficial and what are the alterations that can be made. Because mostly if you see, government comes out with these policies in order to help the people, but sometimes there are certain glitches, sometimes it doesn't work out, and very rarely government or the peace person who introduces the policy will get to know about this. But doing a policy research will, submitting a report like a thesis will help the policy makers to understand what kind of an impact it has really created in. So this is one set of example we can look into policy research. Now let us move to research process. So when I say the word research, there is a problem, there is a research problem, and there is a research question, and you are trying to address this research problem to come out with certain solution. So identifying the research problem, you should be having something in mind, right? What are you really want to, include in your research aims and objectives? What is the whole purpose of conducting this research? So these are certain questions that you should answer before you even start the research, because people will be questioning you at various stages. In case if you're a PhD scholar, or that how it really works out, because you have to, or if you're planning to give a proposal for your fellowships or postdoctoral fellowships and things like that, you need to understand why a research problem is important, because that is the problem which is encouraging you to actually pursue that particular topic, right? Because only when you point out that problem, people will know that this needs to be addressed, this needs to gain attention. So defining the topic or that issue which requires a further investigation. You know that the problem exists and it is not being given proper attention, and you would want to investigate the problem further, and that's the primary step in addressing the research. Second step is formulating the research questions or objectives. So this involves defining the specific questions or objectives that the research aims to answer. So here you see, you will come up with, once you identify the problem, you will have to come up with a set of questions. What do you really want to address, and why do you really want to define these questions? So once you get these questions in mind, you can connect it with your aims and objectives. What do you want to get out of this research? What does your research really aim? Who are the target people for the research? Why do you think your research will be beneficial? In what areas you think your research will be original? What is the impact it's going to make? So these are the questions you can ask to your own self. And once, of course, you will not get all the answers immediately. As I told you, it's a journey by itself. It will take time. You can jot down these questions and start looking out for answers and start getting into discussions, connecting with people and experts to see whether your perspective, whatever you are coming up with, your points are really valid, and whether they will carry value in future as you pursue with that research. Then the third part is selecting an appropriate research methodology. This is very important. When we talk about research methodology, there is this quantitative methodology, qualitative and mixed. I'll be talking about this in detail tomorrow as we'll be discussing as to how to target the research paper components. What are the components that go inside a research paper? But selecting an appropriate research methodology is a very important research step, and you should be clear as to why you will choose this particular research methodology / research design. So for example, you want to choose a quantitative and qualitative. You have methods like surveys, interviews, discussions, and sometimes it's a mixture of both. So understanding which method will be beneficial to you will give you a clear idea as to how you can proceed with the process. Then comes collecting the data. So collecting the data is collecting the information that you need to carry forward your research. So for example, you have surveys and interviews and experiments. What is the way? How are you going to gather information? You need this much information. You've figured out that. What are the ways you can actually go around gathering this information is the process which we call as collecting the data. And once the data collection is over, you are having a lot of raw materials, raw information with you, which needs to be analyzed. Analysis is very important, and this is where I told you critical analysis comes into play. It's a skill that you have to develop as a researcher, because once you go get all the raw information, the raw data, you need to organize them, you need to categorize them, and then you can start interpreting. Because you will get a lot of information. You can't proceed unless you organize it into different categories that you really want to. This is happening based on the research parameters, right? I will have certain factors in mind. I will get certain responses from the surveys that I conduct. I need to organize the respondents. I need to organize the answers that I get into different categories. And once I kind of put it into different categories, I can start working on a bar graph or a pie chart to interpret the data so that I can come with certain numbers. And that's what we say as quantitative analysis, right? So I can say, for example, I'm conducting a research on the impact of social media on youth or something, or even children, if I could say. So I can place it in a category. I can circulate my survey forms to these children who will fill it up and give. I can again segregate that into different category, right? Maybe from 5 to 10 or 12 to 15 years, and then till 18 we can categorize it. Or if I'm going to focus on impact of social media on youth, again I will have to specify an age category, and within that age category I can start categorizing the number of students who responded and what is the impact. So all this I can put it in a graph or in a flow chart or in a pie chart, which will actually help me to come with numbers where I can conclude or I can interpret saying that this much percentage says yes or this much percentage is saying no. So when I put it in numbers, I can largely reflect on the problem that I'm analyzing. So this is how it works. And again, all these steps vary according to the topic, according to the stream of the field that we choose for our research. And finally, after we analyze the data, we come up with the conclusion. Conclusion is nothing but your research findings, right? You summarize all the findings that you have got in this research and you start making recommendations based on the results of the research. So the conclusion part is the final part where your entire research culminates into the key concepts or the key theories and concepts that you have used, whatever information you've got or whatever hard work you've put into finding that particular approaching that particular problem, the solution literally comes out as the conclusion. So you will summarize the findings and making recommendations as to what are the possible solutions. Since you have come up with these findings, what can you recommend in future or what can be done to make the problem, to solve the problem and make the situation better. So if you see, as I'm explaining itself, it's such an organic process, and it includes a lot of steps and you can't skip any step. It needs to be taken gradually and step by step. Sometimes it takes time. It might take few months to collect data. Sometimes it takes even years for people to collect data. I've seen researchers staying in different places. If they're going to do ethnographic research where they study about different culture, we say ethnography. So they stay with that set of people there, understand their lifestyle, collect a lot of information. And then there is autoethnography. So these are all research related to anthropology, studying the behavior of people. So for that kind of research, you have to stay with that set of people or the culture that you've selected or the area that you've selected. There's a lot of studies for tribal people, right? These days, that's getting a lot of momentum where people study about these tribal people, lifestyles, they are settling and all. So they go and stay there, they understand their culture. It's a long process. Sometimes it takes years for collecting this information and reflecting on it. But at the end, if you're able to come out with a unique perspective and you come out with a lot of findings which no one has ever come out with, then you're happy. You don't really think about the number of years. You won't call it's a waste of time. Of course, it's a learning experience, but the whole thing matters on how you approach the research and carry it, or in an organized and a structured way so that it culminates into a proper set of conclusions, proper set of findings, which will be beneficial to the society. Remember, the research that you're conducting, obviously you're passionate about it, the topic that you're selecting, the field that you're selecting, and you have an expert, your supervisor to guide you, you have people to guide you and take you forward, fellow scholars and all. But also one thing you remember, it should be beneficial to the people, right? It should make an impact. That's the role, that's the whole idea of coming up with research. And the knowledge or what you're sharing from your research, the unique perspectives or the findings that you share from your research should help other scholars who might, prospective scholars who might come into the field after many years or after some years. They'll be able to pick up the thread, pick the strand from there, and they'll be able to go ahead with a new set of research. Maybe they can use your findings as a core area for their research. So this way you are able to contribute to the field of research. You are able to advance advance the knowledge in that field which you have selected. So it's very important that it's carried out step by step, and for this it might take time, and that's why a lot of persistence, hard work, and effort is needed from the researcher. And if you're going to do it passionately, I think it will all fall into place automatically. So what are the key concepts in research? If you see validity, starting from validity, this refers to the extent to which the research accurately measures what it intends to measure. So validity of the research, probably we are talking about a certain time period that's involved in the research, where you measure the effect of certain policies, or measure the effect of certain movements that has happened in history. So all these things will be checked with the validity parameter. And the second one is reliability. It refers to the consistency and stability of the research finding. So you should be able to tell what period you have carried out the research. You are able to use the same, what are the factors that you use to carry out the research, and this will really put your research into test whether it is reliable. And then comes the sample is very important, because that plays an important role in your conducting your surveys, your interviews, and it is what you are choosing, right? For example, I want to study the life of tribal people, is research I'm going to conduct. So they will be my group of individuals, they'll be my sample. Or example, I'm going to conduct research on, a set of women who are working, and what is their lifestyle, what is the socio psychological issues that they are facing, are they able to balance their work and personal life. So these are all psychological related issue from the psychology field I'm talking about. So for this sample, I'll be selecting a group of women in this age category, so they become my sample for my study. And what is population? Population is nothing but it is a broader group of individuals from which the sample I can select. So if I'm going to say I'm going to talk about working women, and that's the entire huge population, so in that, probably I will restrict my sample to an age category of probably 20 plus or 25 plus, to I can have one age limit, and I'll say I'm only taking this sample, and that will be representative of the entire population. For this, I can give you an example. If you want to like see how a cake, I'm just having a cake with me. If I want to know how it really tastes, I'll just pick a small piece out of it, and I'll taste it, and I see, yes, it's really good, it's delicious. It's not necessary that I should finish the entire cake to say that it's good or it's bad, right? So I'm just picking out a small piece out there. So similarly, from a whole set of individuals or objects, I'm picking out a specific set, that is sample. So population is the entire thing which I can't really take into my research. Out of that, I'll be selecting a set of individual. Maybe I'll have some parameters, some factors to that, maybe like age limit or talking about gender. But then this is my specific sample that I'm going to select so that I can carry out my research. And then the final concept you have to have in mind is bias. Bias is, it refers to the factors which might influence the research finding. For example, when I'm talking about, I have my own personal beliefs and expectation, I should see to that it shouldn't influence my research in a, not so good way. For example, if I have a belief that I have a belief that this I have gender stereotypes is not something that I'm really okay with, and then I'm talking about working women, I shouldn't be taking my personal views. For example, I don't really understand how certain religious values function within a particular family institution. That is my personal view. I can't take it into the research, because that then my research findings will have a bias. So I should be considered about that, and you should also have certain practice research ethics. So that I haven't put here, but then this is something when you will take it into consideration when you're working with a group of participants. For example, sometimes you should maintain the confidentiality of your participants in research. Probably they don't want to reveal their name or reveal certain information. You should maintain that confidentiality. So there is this research ethics also, which plays an important role. So these are the things that you should focus when you are starting your research journey. Before you start itself, you should have these things in mind, so that, of course, you can't do everything, you can't play it safe, I would say. As you keep going, you will find that certain things can be found out using trial and error method. It's okay, it'll be a learning experience, but it's good that you have an understanding of how a research should actually happen, because the more structured and the more organized you are, the things get better. Okay, now we are going to the important part of research. Now that you know that you have certain problems in mind, you know that you are going to do research about this particular thing, you need to come up with a topic, right? Topic selection is very important. Probably when a scholar starts working on a research, there are like 4 or 5 topics in mind. Some of them have more than 5 topics. They're struggling as to what topic I can really select for my research. Remember, the topic is very important, like even for any article or any research paper. Imagine you're picking up a newspaper, right? how do you like choose which article you would want to read? What really attracts you? If you take a newspaper, there are so many articles, maybe 50 plus articles competing with each other for the reader's attention. So going to that particular article, why is your eye even traveling to that article? The first thing that attracts you is the topic, is the title, right? So this is the topic that you're really interested. You go and immediately you take that particular article and you start.
Ma'am, your voice is not audible.
Hello, voice is not audible, ma'am.
Ma'am, voice is not
She's been
audible.
muted. She's been
Okay.
muted. We need to unmute her.
Don't know
Kindly
what
start
happened.
with.
Okay, I think you can hear me now.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
Kindly start with topic
Just
selection, ma'am.
Oh, okay,
Kindly.
from topic selection. Okay, I
Yeah,
missed.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So we were seeing about the research, key concepts in research, and now we'll be moving on to topic selection. Topic selection is very important because once you select with the topic, if you're going to do your research journey, is quite a long time. And I'm just focusing on PhD research or any research that you do. It's not that you're going to finish it in 1 day's time or even 1 month's time, right? You need to travel with this particular research for quite some considerable amount of time. And remember, the topic is something which is very crucial. It's going to stick with you. It's something that will basic. It forms the basic of your research. So what happens is, many times from my experience, I've seen students selecting topics for their research, and maybe after 6 months or 1 year they come back to me and they say, now I'm not able to handle this topic. I started with this, I had some interest, but now I'm finding it difficult. I'm not able to find resources. I'm unable to find my primary or secondary resource. There are some issues they come up with, and they want to work on another topic. So it creates a lot of chaos in between. So why this thing actually happens is, before you select your topic, you should do a lot of background check, a lot of background research has to be done even before you actually enter into research. So that's what I'm trying to say. So once you have this topic in mind, sometimes you can have like 3-4 topics or even 5 topics in mind. Sometimes you have just one topic you are very sure that you can go with. But if you're having multiple topics, it's good that you weigh the pros and cons. You do a lot of research to see which one will be viable, which one is going to be feasible for you to travel with for a long time. And of course, another important thing is, or the most significant thing is, when you're selecting the topic, you should have interest, you should have passion for that. Because many times students pick up topics because it's forced by the supervisors, or it's just they just want to do it for the sake of picking it up and doing it. If this is done, then they lose interest, and whenever things get hard during this intellectual journey, they find it like they have to give up, and they don't show that interest. And for just to get the things done, they do it, and it's reflected in the quality of the work that's being done. So make sure you select the topic that really cheers you up, that really carries a lot of interest and passion for you. Only passion will help you to sustain for a longer period of time. Because I'm saying it's not an easy journey. From my own experiences, I would say there are times you might be forced to give up, because you will face certain problems when collecting your data, or certain things might not turn out the way you expect to turn out. So what only thing that will hold you is your passion, and also the thing that you are coming up with something new, because you know that you are coming out with this and it's not been done. Now, I won't say not been done at all. It's not been done the way you are going to see, or you have perceived it to be. So be very careful at this stage. You can take an expert help. You can talk to supervisors. You can talk to faculty members, and you can check with fellow scholars. Whatever help and support you would want to take it. Ensure that you select a winning topic. That's more important, which you are passionate to work with. So here I've put in some criteria for topic selection: finding quality research topic ideas, evaluating the topic ideas systematically, and choosing a winning research topic. So in this, if you see, you need to ensure that your research topic the idea holds a quality to it, because you can't do anything that is already been overdone, and it's like people know enough about it. So have this concept of innovation. It should have something new. It should interest the people. And evaluate. You have many topics, ensure that you evaluate them, and see to that you do some background research to check what has been already done related to the topic, and what is the new thing that you'd want to do. Remember the roundtable conference image. What are you going to bring to the table? That matters. And a winning research topic is a sign that your thesis or your research paper is going to be winning at the end. Of course, if you start good, it's definitely it's going to end good. So ensure that the topic selection happens meticulously. And when you are doing your topic selection, have these questions, ask the questions to yourself. And I'm saying, as a researcher, everything starts from you. The research starts from you, but at the end, it reaches out to the public, right? So if a PhD scholar is starting a research, it's a personal journey. First starts research with me, then it goes to the supervisors, a lot of discussions, many things happen. But starting from me, and towards the end, when I attend when I'm a researcher and I do my PhD viva voce, it gets transformed to the public. It becomes publicized, right? So it's starting from I and it's going to the public. So first you start asking questions to your own self. Then people will start asking you the same question. When you attend your viva voce for a PhD, you'll be asked many questions as to why you selected the topic, how can you justify, what is the originality, why is it new, why do you think, all these questions that you would have asked yourself already, public will start asking you. So you start asking and you start checking with your own self as to how far you will be able to take forward this topic. So the first question is what? Explaining the big picture of your research topic. So I am starting a topic, I should be able to kind of visualize and see the bigger picture, how it will take me in another year's time. What can I be doing with this topic? Do I have chances to broaden myself in this topic? Will I be able to find relevant subtopics, relevant sources for me to be carried to the next step so that I don't get stuck in the research? And then, very importantly, why is it original? Explain how your topic is unique. The uniqueness of research is very important. Of course, you are researching something, reapproaching something, rereading. That is definitely there. You're doing again. But how are you doing it? It matters a lot. It makes you stand apart, stand out from the crowd. So everyone is doing it. What is the new thing that you are adding to it or you are looking at? It is very important. And then the third question is why it's important. What is the value your research is holding? How do you think it's going to benefit the people out there? What is the impact that it's going to create? And then how? Explain how will you undertake. Now that you know why it's original and why it's important, how are you planning to take forward this research? This is a very important question because sometimes all these first three will fall in place. And then the fourth one is the place where the researcher will start thinking, what am I really supposed to do to, collect the information? How will I start gathering the data? Who are the people who are going to help me? What are the books that I'm going to, find out? So all these questions will come under how. But if you're not having adequate answers for the fourth question, then there are possibilities that, as a researcher, you might get stuck in your research journey, and that will create a lot of confusion. So having said this, although you prepare all this, there are chances that you might find, yourself getting stuck here and there. Difficulties do come because uncertainties are there. But then if you have a clear answers for all these four questions, almost at least you're able to answer 90% of these questions in your mind, there is chances that you're going to go smoothly in the research journey. And whatever difficulties or uncertainties that crop up in between, we can always handle it, and we'll be prepared to handle it. And you will find out ways to go through that. So ensure that you ask these questions and see and test the validity of your topic. One important thing or one thing that I can suggest is you can do a peer check. So you have a fellow scholars who are traveling with you. You might know experts. You have faculty members who are ready to help you. So ensure that you share the topic with them. You have finalized the topic. You are convinced, and you have asked yourself all these questions, and you are set to start. So once you do that, make sure you do this check. You can give it to your friends, you can give it to the fellow scholars, or whoever will be able to help you in this position to give you a valuable suggestion and feedback. So ask them which topic is their favorite. Probably if you are confused as to which topic you can settle down, you can give 2-3 topics and ask them which is their favorite, and you see which is getting more attention. So you will know why it is getting more attention, why people are finding it, why people are picking that particular topic. From there, you will get an idea as to how you can choose. Then the second question, why do they like that specific topic? So if I'm going to give 4 topics to my friends, and like probably 10 of them pick the same topic, I know it's getting attention. I know it's going to be a winning topic. And I'll also ask them why they like that particular topic. What component or what element is really attracting them towards the topic? So this is all a self-study that I'm doing. This is all what I call the background study that I'm doing before I actually settle into the major research. And then finally, what challenges do they foresee? So some people will be kind enough to tell you, experts will be kind enough to tell you that, what are the challenges you might go through. So for example, From my literature, I can give you example. When I selected one topic, one of my faculty members were telling me, you will not find enough secondary sources for this. How are you going to handle that? Just have this in mind. So yes, that was a valid point. So I wasn't depending on secondary sources, but I thought for this particular text, I should do a lot of critical reflection on my own self. So there's a lot of things, or I will have to look into different, platform for resources, not just depend on print resources alone. Probably I was suggested to visit a few libraries where certain resources would be there. I can go and pick up. So I got that expert advice, and I got to understand what might be the difficulties, potential difficulties that exist within this area of research. So this peer check will be of great help. Then how to narrow down on a topic. For example, when you come up with a topic, you have this broader area of the topic. For example, if I'm going to talk about social media marketing, that's the broad area that I have selected. I love that topic if I'm interested in social media marketing. But it's a vast thing, right? I can't say I'm going to do research about social media marketing. You have a lot of social media platforms there. So what is your niche area? What is the area that you would really want to focus? So from a broader perspective, you're breaking it down and you're choosing maybe Facebook marketing or YouTube marketing, so that I can narrow down. Now that I've narrowed down, I've come up to a specific element from the broad topic. I'll be able to put in a lot of energy and start focusing on that element. So for example, if it's going to be literature, the broad area, Indian literature, if I say I have a lot of materials, I have a lot of authors who work on Indian literature, but niche area is Indian, I'm going to just focus on Indian Muslim women or Indian Bhakti literature. So under that, I'll be able to narrow down and select a particular range of authors alone. So by this way, I'm able, from broad area, I'm slowly breaking out into the narrow part. So this is one important technique that you should know. Once you select a broader area of topic, you should be able to start compartmentalizing and getting into the narrow or the niche area which you will be interested to work on. So here I put up this picture as to how the narrowing down actually happens. So you may not right away, you will find an interesting topic, and of course it's interesting. That's why you're going ahead. You will do a lot of background research, and you will ask a lot of questions, open-ended questions, not just that four questions, any questions that come to your mind. Those four are very basic. They're very primary questions, but you can ask a lot of questions to yourself to see what else you can do to be more specific with your topic. So for example, here they're considering reflecting on the questions that you have considered. So I've asked what, why, and how. You can also ask few more questions as to when the research can actually start, who have already done research on the subject. So these are other ancillary questions that can help you to get a good view. And what aspect is the general topic that you will explore? See, sometimes I pick up a topic from a broader area. I create a niche area for myself, but still I'll be reflecting on the broader area here and there to support my research. So that is also there. And also, for all this, your research questions comes into play. What are the research questions you have in mind? What are the problems that you're going to address? I'm going to the sample research questions. If it is down, I'll read it for you. So here there's this question which says, why are social networking sites harmful? So this is just a question. Again, you see the general element there, right? So social networking sites, if I say there are many sites. So if I'm going to say why are they harmful, I need to specify which sites I'm really talking about. So the clear question would be, how are online users experiencing or addressing privacy issues on social networking sites like MySpace and Facebook? So I'm coming out with social networking sites and not just saying harmful. What kind of harm do I mean? Maybe it's the privacy issue that is very important, or sharing photos, or within the privacy issue, there are a lot of elements, right? So same way, focus is very important. This is for clarity. And also your research questions that you are doing should be focused. Remember, it's your research question which is guiding you to confirm the topic that you have selected. So for example, if I'm saying what is the effect on the environment from global warming? So if I say global warming, again, a very broad topic, but to make it more focused, I can say, how is glacial melting affecting penguins in Antarctica? So I'm coming to a specific problem within that global warming, so that I can say how it is affecting a particular species. So everywhere from being broad, if I'm going to narrow down, I need to bring a lot of clarity and I need to bring a lot of focus. because broader areas you will lack your focus, right? Because there'll be too many things to focus on. Remember, any research will have a limitation, because if you're going to select a broader area, if I'm going to just say global warming, it has a lot of impact and it is different. It works differently for different regions, and climate itself is a huge topic. So, but then if I'm going to restrict it to one particular area and talk about its consequences, the effects in one particular species, I'm becoming more narrower there and more focused automatically. So this is very important when you are talking about research. So what are the ways that you will use to make your research unique? You need to be open to changes. For example, in your research journey, you might select a few topics, your concepts and theory, but during the journey you find out that here and there you might have to change a few things, incorporate few ideas. You go about and do it. You don't hesitate to change your research ideas whenever it's needed, but of course you give it a lot of thought, because you shouldn't be regretting later, right, that I dropped off this idea and now I need it. It's not that so easy to go back and forth. So again, take feedback, discuss it with experts, consult your supervisors, people who can help you out, but be ready to take those changes. And avoiding plagiarism, very important. Again, remember one thing: originality is the core premises in which the research rests on. So avoiding copying notes or putting it exactly in your research paper, which will take to plagiarism, and that's considered serious academic offense. So you need to be aware of that. Ensure that you paraphrase and summarize and write that. We'll be doing that in the upcoming session. And continuously keep honing your research skills. So when I talk about research skills, I mean LSRW skills in language, that is listening, speaking, reading, writing, which is not just general skill alone, but particularly it's very important for researchers. And I'll be taking you through that the next slides. So how do you keep changing your research ideas? How can you incorporate the changes that I was talking about? So substitution, replacing component theories and switch method. So you choose your research, you choose certain theories in the beginning, but you will be ready to change them here and there. If you want to use another theory, you think combining two theories will help, go ahead with that. Again, check whether it's going to add value to the research, whether it's going to enhance the value of the research. Definitely you can go ahead and do the substitution. And merging ideas, adjusting the approaches, and modifying the effect or scope of your research. Or sometimes you feel certain notions are not. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Am I
ma'am.
Yes,
audible?
ma'am.
Okay,
Please
okay,
continue.
okay. I thought I was okay. I thought I lost. Okay. So elimination is when you want to remove certain components of the research. You think like one or two elements is not necessary. It's not going to really define the course of the research. Probably in the early stage you thought this is important and you've included, but as you travel, after a year or so, you find there is no relevance for this element anymore. You don't hesitate to drop it, because you're not going to carry unnecessary baggage. Already it's a heavy journey, it's a long journey, and you have loads. So ensure that you drop them. But again, with every step, whether it's eliminating or incorporating new ideas slash theories or concepts, ensure that you check it out twice with people, especially with your supervisors, and take feedback. And also do some research about it, and don't do it in a very hasty manner. That's what I would say, because later you shouldn't be thinking about this. If you drop it off, you just drop it off at that part of the research stage and you go ahead. And also rearranging certain order of the process. So for example, you would want to start your research with you would have had a structure, right? We are talking about organization, but then you want to make certain changes in the way the sequence is ordered. Again, you think it's going to add value, you can go ahead and do it, because when you are open to changes, it allows a lot of growth, and that's very important in the journey of research. So research and academic skills, they come together. Researchers should keep honing their writing skills, listening, reading, and speaking skills. All of this is important for them. So sometimes I see PhD scholars, they start writing only at their fourth year or towards the end, and only when they start writing, they feel they can't even write a paragraph, because they have not written at all. It's only reading, it's only researching, reading, and probably giving a lot of speeches in conferences and things like that, but they never had the time to start writing unless they are pushed to the last year. They find the urgency and they start writing, but when they start, they find it very difficult. So it's very important, writing has to start early and often, so that if you have any barriers in language, if you are struggling with your language, that will come out through in that writing process, and you can start honing your academic writing skills. And again, research journey is a marathon and not a sprint. So you have to travel in this for 3 + 4 years or something. So you don't, you should sustain, you should carry that energy and passion for a long time. So be proactive about receiving feedback, try to take help and try to take suggestions, because every time you get feedback, this matters a lot, because you try to connect with people, experts in your field, who will be able to guide you, will be able to share their suggestions whenever you have a doubt or whenever you're getting stuck in your research. And avoiding redundancy, writing in third person, revising, rewriting, and giving yourself time. Sometimes, to develop these skills, you will need some time. Make yourself, take it at one step at a time, because whatever you're doing, whatever improvement you're doing to your skills, it will take some time to show up gradually. But constantly keep writing, because writing is the core, out of this four skills, writing is the important thing, because at the end of it, you're going to write your research and publish. And we are looking forward to publish, right? So writing plays a very important role. And of course, for good writing skill, good listening, good reading, and good speaking is important. All the skills are connected. So stick to the unique aspect of your research. Throughout your research paper, what you should be really highlighting. Sorry, am I not audible, or is there any?
Audible,
Okay.
ma'am. Audible.
Okay,
You
okay,
can
okay. I'm
proceed,
hearing
ma'am.
some sound,
You
so
can
I'm just
proceed, ma'am.
thinking.
I request all the
Okay, okay.
participants. I request
So
all the
connecting.
participants to kindly mute.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of disturbing. Yeah, thanks for that. So, sticking to the unique aspect of the research is important. Throughout your research paper, please highlight wherever you see that, your uniqueness comes out, because that's one thing even your external evaluator will be looking into, and you'll be questioned on that also. And that's something that will give you the motivation to go ahead. And there are many chapters as you write your research. If it's going to be your PhD research, definitely it's going to be 4 to 5 chapters. And make sure you focus on one chapter at a time. If you take that one chapter itself, it's going to be like, a research paper. So ensure that one chapter or one part of the research you focus and give it your full strength, and treat each chapter as a mini project. Sometimes, it's like introduction with the, then the chapters come out, and finally the conclusion. So each chapter itself will be like a mini dissertation, and it requires a lot of effort. And take it one at a time and give it your full effort and get it done, and then only move to the next chapter. So in your research journey, focus on the progress over perfection. Of course, it's very usual that researchers tend to, strive towards perfection, achieving perfection. Yes, that is there. But then sometimes when we are not, we make errors, we make mistakes, we learn from the experiences, which is completely fine, and which is what is research journey about. So the more focus should be on the progress. You shouldn't be at a time or in a month. Maybe you are planning out like you're going to publish a paper in 6 months. So within the 6 months, what are the preliminary work that you'll be doing towards getting it published? So, and then once you give out this plan, you have a time schedule being drawn out based on this, you can start working on it step by step. Ensure there is progress. Even if the little progress, it's fine, but you shouldn't be stuck up. You shouldn't be standing at the same place. Once the progress is made consistently, perfection will fall into place. And whenever you write your chapters, you should be focusing on how you connect ideas across from one chapter to the other. So sometimes in when I read a PhD thesis, I could see like every chapter is like completely disconnected. Because remember, all your 5 chapters or all of 6 chapters or how many ever chapters you're writing for your thesis, it has to get connected to the main topic ultimately. It has to get connected to whatever you're stating in your title, whatever you've chosen ultimately. So there shouldn't be any disconnecting elements within the chapters, which will make the evaluator or which will make anyone who's reading because your thesis, after getting evaluated after your public viva voce, it's going to be published, or you might even make it as, published as a book. Scholars will be reading it. So when whoever is going to read it, they should feel that the ideas are flowing logically, and there's a connection between every chapter that you're trying to bring out. So all this can be done when your language is focused, when your research ideas are in place, and you try to maintain the uniqueness of your research by connecting every strand that is represented in the different research chapters. Now let's quickly move on to the LSRW skills for researchers. LSRW is a language skill that focuses on listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And anyone who wants to improve their language, who wants to improve their skills for life, will be focusing on this. And of course, it is a very, very important skill when it comes to a researcher. So let's start with listening. why do you think listening is important? Of course, here you have, enrolled into this FDP program, and people who listen, they focus on their listening skills are people who gain a lot, I would say, because there's a lot of things that gets into you, and when you are an active listener, you put in that effort to understand what the speaker is trying to communicate. See, I would have prepared these materials. I would take so much time to go through all this. There's a lot of background work that I do. But when I am presenting to you, just by actively listening to that presentation, to the webinar, you quickly grasp all that research that I have made. It's not that you will go again and you will read everything, not necessary. This active listening alone will help you to understand the wealth of knowledge, or it help you to process the knowledge that is coming. That is what I'm planning to share. So listening is very important. And for a researcher, definitely it's important, because you will be in a position to attend many seminars and conferences. You will be in a position to constantly make yourself available to certain situations or certain conferences, certain discussions, I would say, where it will be important for you to talk about your area of research. So when you are listening, it helps you to prepare yourself mentally for the research that you're planning to do. But these days, even in my teaching profession, and many teachers will be here and will agree, it's really difficult to retain that listening span of time. Sometimes they say it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, probably because we are all technologically driven. It's really difficult to make people to listen, to take that effort to lend their ears. But once you practice this active listening skill as a researcher, you will be taking in all the information that's being discussed, and you will not miss out on anything that's important. I have observed in many conferences where I go and attend, mostly the participants are not active listeners, right? So even when fellow scholars are presenting or scholars are discussing their papers, I see most of them don't listen. It's just done for the sake of doing. But how good it will be if active listening happens. If 10 scholars are presenting their research papers, you listen to that actively. It's like you have taken 10 research papers in your mind without doing any background research. Actually, you've got the information. So this is very important. I would like to share a personal experience. When I was doing my MPhil, I attended a conference in one of the arts college in Chennai. I never had a plan to do my PhD at that time. I was asked to attend this conference. It was compulsory. Probably I just went there and then I presented my paper also. But before that, there were many plenary speakers who came up and spoke about life writing, which is my area of research. At that time, I never knew that I'll be delving deeper into this area at all. I still remember and I still keep quoting this incident every workshop that I do related to research. Because as an MPhil student, I was just looking at all the speakers talking. But then there was one speaker whose speech was really, I was attracted to that speech. Probably I listened a lot to her, I think. And then I thought, okay, life writing is something which sounds interesting. And that struck me, and I took it forward for my PhD topic. So I started doing a lot of research. That word stayed with me, that speech stayed with me. After doing a lot of research, I came up with the topic, and then my research journey actually began. And I'm just wondering, if I turn back and look, I'm thankful that I listened, intently to that speaker. She sort of gave me an idea for that PhD research, although I didn't intend to do, that sparkled my interest, and I landed up doing my PhD in that particular genre. So I keep encouraging my students. I say that, you go to these conferences, you listen, you don't attend it for the sake of getting a certificate. Even for academicians, whoever is it, we are supposed to attend FDPs, because if I know that, because every semester they ask, how many FDPs did you attend, show the certificate. Sometimes I know my colleagues who just attend for the sake of attending, and they really don't pay attention to. And but when you do that, probably something or the other from that presentation, from that webinar comes up, and that will be a lead to your research, or it might help you to look into how you can actually better yourself professionally. For academicians, I'm talking about. And for scholars, they can take great ideas, they can implement it in their own research, and it will be beneficial for them. So listening is very important, right from classroom, right from attending conferences, or discussing your ideas. Make sure you have this ability to develop active listening skills. What is the advantage of listening skills? It makes you more stronger. It helps you to build stronger connections with people around you, like both in your professional and personal front. It makes you an effective communicator, because the more you listen, example, I would tell people who are struggling with English language speaking, and because again, as a researcher, you will have to go and present your papers to, in different forums. You will have to attend conferences, you go up, you face the crowd, and you should boldly be able to talk about your research findings, right? And interestingly, I know people who are very strong in their research. They have their material ready. They have such wonderful ideas. But when they go on to present their research paper, nowadays it's also happening virtually. But otherwise, they lack this presentation skill. They lack this, speaking skill, and they struggle, and they don't know what words they have to use. They run short of words, lack of proper vocabulary, grammar, all these things, play a havoc. And finally, they feel that they don't do well when it comes to presentations at all. And that's the time I remember that how important it is for a researcher to focus on these language skills, which is LSRW. So when you start listening actively, you gather a lot of information, and your language improves. If you listen to speeches, you work on your accents, automatically you start learning new words which you will start using in your speech, in your conversation. And it will enhance your learning journey, and you will start absorbing and retaining a lot of information. A good listener is also a good speaker, because listening is the more input, right? The more you take insight. Speaking is the output, how much you speak outside. A person who listens to a lot of knowledgeable content, when he or she speaks, you will know how it comes out from them. The output will be reflected based on the input that is taken. So someone who's refusing to listen or doesn't take the effort to actively listen, obviously when they speak or when they share their thoughts, you will see that lack of knowledge or ideas which will be shown out. And for a researcher, their speech should also be knowledgeable, right? That's the whole thing. Their life is tied up with knowledge. So you can start developing. It's never too late. So focus on your listening skills, and it helps you to be a great human being, not just a researcher alone. Above all, it improves the quality of your life, I would say, even in your relationships, even in your personal front. And process of listening is taking place in 4 categories: receiving, understanding, evaluating, and responding. So the first step in listening is to receive the message and try to decode the meaning behind it. Receiving is nothing but hearing and attending. For example, let me take the example of this FDP happening now. I'm talking, many of you might be hearing, some of you might be listening. So, what is the difference between hearing and listening? Hearing is, you can hear my voice, but listening is you're attending to my voice. You're taking an effort to understand what I'm communicating. And that's where the difference lies in. You try to construct meaning from both verbal and non-verbal. Here it's a virtual meeting. Otherwise, if I'm standing at a podium and I'm talking, you will see how my hands are moving. You will see my body language as well. So everything together culminates into the receiving stage. And then understanding. So after you receive the message, you start understanding what is the meaning, what is she trying to say. So there is this kind of a bond that develops between the speaker and the listener. So the first step is receiving. Second step is trying to understand the meaning, trying to understand what the message she or he is communicating. And the third one is evaluating. So when you are evaluating, you are listening to what I'm saying, and at the same time you are also checking whether you are getting the information that you really need, whether my my content is well structured, whether it is organized or disorganized, whether it is important. You will start analyzing it, right? You will start evaluating it. You will give it in your feedback also, right? How do you really feel about the session? Was it really helpful? So the evaluation process happens once the understanding process is done. And then finally, you have this responding. In the stage of responding, if it was a meeting where I could all meet you in person, after I finish my speech, or even during I deliver my speech, I'll be able to see how far you are reflecting on it. Probably you might be nodding your head or looking at me, or if you don't understand, if you're not interested, you'll be looking elsewhere. I think as teachers, professors, you can all connect with this to your classroom setup, right? So how students really show their interest in the subject through their body language. So again, non-verbal reactions also play an important role. So this is the way the listener responds to the speaker. With this, the whole process of listening comes to an end. Then reading. Of course, a good researcher should be a good reader. We should be reading extensively. We'll be carrying out something called literature review, which I'll be talking about tomorrow. In literature review, the whole focus is on reading whatever literature has been published related to your topic so far. Because only when you read what has been already published, you will know what needs to be done. What has already been done, if you find out, you will know what needs to be done. and what is not done, right? You will get an idea, and that's where the research gap comes into place. So you will be reading a lot of research papers, articles, books, a lot of background information has to be carried out. So reading skills is important, and you should develop that skill. If you're going into this research journey, you should make sure that you are able to read. And what are the things, the micro skills that are focused within the whole broader area of reading skills? You read to understand the meaning. Of course, you understand the word's meaning, and that's why you proceed reading the text. You comprehend the meaning of unfamiliar words. Probably, if you don't know a few words, you can always refer online and get the meaning, and mastering the basic grammatical units. Now, within reading, there are four types that you can focus on: scanning, skimming, intensive reading, and extensive reading. So, what is scanning? Scanning is nothing but when you're searching for a particular information, word or a phrase, it's called scanning. So, it's quickly used to find a specific piece of information. For example, when I'm referring a dictionary, I'm just going and finding that particular word. Or when I'm reading the newspaper, no one reads a newspaper completely, right? We don't read it, fully. We just pick the important news or whichever we really love to read, we just pick it up. We choose out of the entire available material. And this is the example of scanning. For example, you want to focus on your research work, you pick a book. You see, it's talking about all the broader areas related to your research. Probably you'll go to the index and you'll see which is the topic that you really need within this book. You can't sit and read like 300 pages or 400 pages, right? You don't have time. Of course, as a researcher, we are all rushing against deadlines. So when I pick the book, I'll only choose the related subtopics and I read only that. That's scanning. Then what is skimming? Skimming is something even more faster. You just, go through the entire passage or a book. You don't really read everything in detail, but you only look at the main headings, subheadings, or illustrations to give you an overall idea of the content. Again, in the newspaper, this happens. Some people pick certain articles and read it fully. Some people just read the headlines and they just keep moving, right? It's like flipping through the pages and reading brochures and all. So skimming helps you to, probably that's the first step to tell you whether you can really choose this material. If I want to use this material for my research, first thing I'll flip the pages. I'll just quickly probably take a minute to judge whether this is going to be further helpful for me. Just seeing the title or reading the blurbs of the book, I get an idea. Once skimming is done, then I can do the scanning part to pick out and choose what are the materials relevant within that particular book. And then intensive reading. Intensive reading is nothing but very close reading. It's in-depth reading. Now that I've selected, imagine I've done a skimming, I took the book, I done scanning, I know the chapters in the book that I have to focus on. And then now I've picked up the chapter. I will no longer be skimming and scanning. What I'll be doing is intensive reading. So maybe the chapter has 20 pages or 25 pages. I will sit down with the chapter and I will give an in-depth reading because this is going to be what I was really looking for. And I'll be using inputs from this material in my research. So that is where intensive reading comes. So you're preparing for an examination. Again, it's an intensive reading because you need to understand things better. You can't skim and scan. Always some students do that, right? In a hurry. They just want to go through the answer, not really learn it. So, but for a researcher, intensive reading is what is very important. But other types of reading will also aid you. And that's why I'm explaining the other types as well. Extensive reading is something which is related to leisure reading, you can say, just to understand a general understanding. For example, if I pick up a novel and I start reading, it's my hobby. I won't be reading, I won't take so much of effort to go in depth, but it'll be like I'll take it in a very lighter mode. It's done for pleasure. But mostly in research, I think we'll not be doing extensive reading unless you are interested to pick up a novel. You are a person who loves reading books. That's different. Otherwise, it's mostly skimming, scanning, and intensive reading. Now, let's go to writing skills. Writing skill is definitely the most important skill out of the four for us. But writing skill can be developed only when listening, speaking, and reading are, they're all interconnected. All the four skills are interconnected. But you can't directly jump into writing without developing your listening, speaking, and reading skills. Because again, remember, your listening and reading. The more you listen, the more you read. The better you speak, the better you write. Because listening and reading is taking inputs, right? So from the external world, you're taking materials inside your mind, inside your brain, right? When you listen and when you read. When you speak and when you write, it comes from you. So you bring out that whatever you've taken in, you bring it out. So there is this connection between these four skills in that way. So writing skill is very important, and starting from your research paper writing, you're going to focus on how you can, improve, master the art of academic writing. And as one significant part, we saw how important it is to select the topic. So whenever I say writing your research paper, you should have a topic in mind, and we intensively went into that and saw how important it is to select and to have a clear understanding of what we are going to writing. And then collecting information, collecting data is already discussed, and organizing the data, that's very important. Once we collect, once we gather the information, organizing, structuring, and then interpreting the results is what a good research paper does. So writing using proper research language, the choice of words, how you split it into paragraphs, using headings, following the format, citations, everything comes into play for a research work. And after you finish writing also, maybe some of them who write, the researchers, when they carry out this writing process, they come across a lot of problems. Sometimes once they write a paragraph, they're not happy with it. There's a lot of rewriting, editing, and things like that which keeps happening. But that's fine. It's all an experience that you will have with the writing. But how to improve your writing is you can read a lot. Listening a lot, definitely that's there. But when you read a lot of research materials, you will slowly start getting the hang of the research language. We'll be talking about that in the upcoming session tomorrow, like what are the phrases and how the language really works well when you take those necessary academic phrases in for introduction chapter or for your conclusion chapter and for gathering your background research. For all this, you should be able to have a good writing skills, and the writing skills is facilitated by the background reading work that you do. So for example, if I have to write one research paper for just like 5 to 10 pages, I need to read a lot. I need to read a lot of materials on that. More I read, I'll be able to understand the terminologies related to that particular research. I'll be able to come up with a lot of questions and find out the relevant answers by reading more materials. And that's how I improve my writing task. Even after you finish writing, you need to do a lot of revision. That is definitely there. And for any, when it comes to a PhD research or a dissertation thesis, always rereading helps a lot because it gives you a chance to, correct your mistakes or typo errors or grammatical errors. And the first write up alone is not going to be very satisfying experience for us. You need to you need to keep on revisiting the writing part and see, like, what are the better words that you can use. Have you already use the correct choice of words? All these things you have to keep revisiting your writing content again and again. Of course, while doing that, you will also make some editing like addition, deletion, and rearranging, which is all done in a way to enhance the quality of the writing. Editing and proofreading happens like after you finish writing. Probably if you know PhD scholars, what they do is they finish writing and then they read it 5 to 10 times, and then they ask some experts to even read their research paper, because a third critical eye is needed to go through that paper and find out any mistakes. And unless they read it like probably 10, 15 times, it's done, it's polished, it's refined, you're satisfied that it can go to the next stage or it can go for the publication. And once all this is done, you are happy that it is, you have read it as many times, you've also taken experts help, then the final draft gets ready. And even not just for your PhD research, or even you're publishing your research paper or you're writing a book, this is the stage, right? Because any writing endeavor includes a lot of research, not a researcher or a PhD candidate alone, but anyone who wants to see their work getting published is a researcher, I would say, not just a writer, not just an author, but a researcher. And any researcher should follow these, skills, should accomplish these skills, hone these skills, and ensure that they go through in a very organized manner so that they don't miss out on the little nuances that play an important role in their writing journey. How to improve your research skills, generally your LSRW skills, and also the speaking skills. I didn't mention it here, but speaking, if you see, one might think why it is important for a researcher. But again, presenting your research paper is mandatory, right? Even if it's not mandatory, it's so good that you go and present your research ideas. When you are in your second year, third year, you've gained enough knowledge, you feel that you are able to, now critically engage with your research topic. You will be asked to go and present in research colloquiums, research seminars. So when you go there, you need to have this excellent speaking skills so that you'll be able to deliver your content. You'll be able to share your knowledge, your research findings to a huge number of audience. So that's something, and speaking will automatically improve as you focus on more of your reading and listening to speeches, and getting yourself acquainted with new words and improving your vocabulary. So listening to authentic conversation, interviews, debates, conferences, you keep listening to speakers a lot, that again helps you a lot to develop your speech. And again, shadowing techniques, listening to audio and repeating it, and listening to TED talks and trying to do mirror practice, where you will have a topic in mind, try to record the speech that you do. You can do it and see how far you're able to fluently communicate in that language. All this can be done in your it's a way to help you to grow yourself, and also it's a very good way of personally improving your language skill. And speaking, yes, you have a lot of options these days where you can join in public speaking clubs, storytelling activities, language challenges you can take up, and also engage in debates, discussions. I think students of college students will have a lot of opportunities to engage in such endeavors. So make sure you go and explore such opportunities to see where you stand in your speaking skill. And reading, definitely, as researchers, even if you like it or not, we are in a position to keep reading. Again, I would say take a passion to read, and use all this micro skills that we were talking about: skimming, scanning, and intensive reading. And ensure that you read something for pleasure also. I would say, if you're a researcher, obviously you'll be focusing on your particular thrust area, but then reading should be an activity. It should be a way of life, I would say. So see which really interests you. For example, I love reading autobiographies. I love reading stories of successful people, understanding their journey. It motivates me a lot. So same way, you people, whoever is listening, you will have your own choice of reading, right? So make sure you pick up a book, and every year at least try to finish one or two books, and this is not related to your research, something which you can do it whenever you have free time, because it not only helps you to improve your language, but also it gives you the necessary break you would need from constantly reading only research papers. And it's something that would really work on your language skill also. And then writing, we have discussed enough how it should really happen. Apart from your research writing, you can also try creative writing. That will help you a lot to take a break from your research writing, and see, probably do something for your own leisure, for your own pleasure time. You can deal with language in that way, not just only for the research. In that way, you can explore more and make it more easier for you to take command over the language. And also, with this, I think I can stop here. But then I would also like to say that I will be talking in detail about the components of research paper, which I'll be doing it tomorrow because we are close to 7:30 now. And this is something that this whole outline, short recap of what I've done, is to show you what research is, what it really takes to be a researcher, how topic selection is very important, and finally, making yourself acquainted with this little nuances that I was talking about plays a very important role in making you stand as a researcher. That I would like to conclude with this quote by Albert Sent, which says, "Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought." So the whole idea, everyone sees it, it's already there, but you think in a different way, and your thought is definitely original. No one is going to think like the way you thought. So that's where you really bring that originality. So with that, I stop, and if there's any questions, I can take it.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we open the floor for an interactive Q&A session. We encourage you to drop your question in the chat box, and the resource person will be happy to address them.
Yeah, Rajkumar.
Ma'am, I have a very, maybe my question might be juvenile, but my question is that whenever, as a student, as an undergrad student of Delhi University, my department organizes a lot of research paper present conferences, and we have to present in that. But
Okay.
the topic seems to be very new, like the history of marginalities in India, and even the feminism or anything which I have not studied. But I really want to be a part of that, but I'm not able to do because the time limit is so short. But you told us that we have to make our ideas very original, and even that needs to be very rigorously studying
Yes.
a lot of research papers. But how do we develop that skill in a very brief stint of time? That I'm asking.
You are a undergrad student from English, if I'm
Yes,
correct.
ma'am.
Okay, see, yeah, I understand that since I'm also from the same field. There are a lot of conferences happening. The thing is, you're finding this. Even I have this issue, no, because sometimes the deadline is, something that we are really rushing against, and it's very less time. What I would say is, Rajkumar, you identify the area of interest that you have within this literature. For example, I don't know what really interests you, because literature is really vast, right? It's a very vast field, and ensure that you have your own niche area. Remember what I was talking to you about broad area, niche area, right? So remember what is the broader area. So if it's Indian literature that's going to interest you, within that we have Dalit literature, within that we have many other literature, women's literature, so many things are coming up. So find your niche area, see your area of interest, and maybe you can gravitate towards that area alone, because obviously you can attend all the conferences, you can listen, you can gather a lot of information, but when it comes to paper presentation and all, ensure that you select one field and one or a couple of fields, if whatever is according to your area of interest, and just focus on that alone. And don't wait only for the conference announcement to come. Start equipping yourself with a lot of reading materials related to your area of interest. You get that? You get what I'm saying, right? Because when you
Yes,
wait for when you wait for a conference and then the date is announced, then you start reading, it's going to be really hectic. You got your niche area in hand. Start reading everything related to that. You're interested. For example, if you're interested in Indian women's writing in literature, and particularly you're interested in Indian Muslim women's writing, for instance, start reading everything related to that. Don't wait for a conference to come up, but keep yourself equipped. Then if anything comes up, you will already be ready. Your background work is done, because background research is what's taking a lot of time for all of us as researchers. So keep yourself acquainted and equipped with this. It will be great, and then you can start going ahead. And don't be in a position to take up all the conferences. You participate in that. That's good, but make sure that you have your own area of interest. That alone will make you an expert, right? That's the whole idea of research, having your niche area. So think about it and try to practice. Hope it has answered your question.
yes, ma'am. Absolute. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. As we come to the conclusion of our program, it is my pleasure to invite Rukhaya to deliver the vote of thanks and express our appreciation to everyone who made this event possible. Over to you, Rukhaya.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am Rokaya from first year MCOM. It gives me great pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for today's insightful webinar. First and foremost, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our principal, Dr. Sister Prema, for unwavering support towards our well-being. Thank you, Sister, for giving us the opportunity to learn more in the field of research. I am privileged to thank our distinguished speaker, Dr. N. Safarin Ma'am, for sharing their valuable time, expertise, and insight. Your knowledge has enlightened us and broadened our understanding of the research. Your thoughts have truly inspired us to think beyond the usual and explore new horizons. I would also like to thank our respected Vice Principal, Mrs. Malika Shetty Ma'am, and Academic Coordinator, Mr. Rajesh Sir, for the support and encouragement in organizing such events that enrich our learning experiences. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. I also thank Mr. Atul sir and Mrs. Lakshmi ma'am, representatives of SEMS Welfare Foundation, who have contributed enough and more to find such an eminent speaker for our program. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. A big thank you to program coordinator, Mr. Suresh sir, and our organizing team, including the faculty coordinators, technical team, and student volunteers, for their dedication and meticulous planning, which ensured the smooth execution of this event. To all the attendees, thank you for your active participation and thought-provoking questions. Your enthusiasm and engagement have made this webinar all the more interactive. And lastly, I express my gratitude to each and everyone for your support in making this event possible. Let us take forward the insights we have gained today and use them to create a positive impact in our respective fields. Once again, thank you all for being a part of this enriching experience. Have a great evening.
Thank you,
Thank you, ma'am.
Ruqayya.
Thank you for everyone. Thank you.
Dear participants, feedback link is shared in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback form. Your responses will be truly appreciable.
With this, we officially conclude today. Once again, a heartfelt thank you to all the distinguished guests, speakers, and participants for the valuable time and insight. I, Rifa Fatima, your host for the day, signing off. Stay safe, stay inspired, and have a wonderful day ahead. Hope to find you all tomorrow again at 6 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.